2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Was this a world premiere by any chance?
It was. It really was.
Very cool. Tonight, world premiere. Yes. By the way, this is actually your second time on the show.
Yeah, we
so
played last
thank you for
season.
coming back. We appreciate it. And any shows coming up in the near future?
Yeah, we play downtown Orlando tomorrow night. It's called the Porch Sessions. It's at the patio down near Planet Pizza, near the Social, like that part of Orange Ave. And then we're playing this big raging Halloween party at the Dumpster in Gainesville with Darn King. And Dave here playing drums. He leads a band called Dog Island.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hitting the Field. I am your host, Kyle Briley, and this afternoon I am happy to be joined by Anthony Abruzzo and Dimitri Zamaris, and later on by Nick Santiago and Tatiyana Smallwood. Before we get into our national segments, though, it's time to start the show like we always do with a little UCF spotlight. All right, guys, stop me if you've heard this before. The UCF football team won again on Saturday, extending their streak and unbeaten season to 9 games after a win over UConn in the now defunct civil conflict.
Rest in peace.
The game isn't really the big story, though, with the 3rd edition of the college football playoff rankings set to be released tomorrow night. Some Knights fans feel as though UCF has been disrespected to this point, being ranked 18th in each of the first rankings. What are some realistic expectations you have for the Knights ranking tomorrow night? Anthony, we'll start with you.
I think maybe we go up to 16 or 17. I mean, like you mentioned, they haven't really given us too much respect. I understand we're in a Power 6 conference, but we're one of only 4 teams undefeated. Bama, Miami, Wisconsin, overrated, and UCF. So I think we should realistically be 12 to 15, but we have more of a chance to get up after the American title game when we win that game against Memphis or SMU. And you know, also next year we have a chance maybe to playoffs if we go undefeated this year. So watch out for the UCF Knights.
1 of 4 undefeated. You got to like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely in good position this weekend, especially after Virginia Tech, Mississippi State, Michigan State, and as well as in addition to Washington also all lost this weekend. That probably puts UCF around the 15 range based off what we've been seeing from the committee thus far. But my biggest thing is fans shouldn't feel disrespected because the rankings up to this point for UCF specifically doesn't matter because we were never going to make the playoff to begin with.
No.
And you guys know that. Like, as hard as that is to say, all UCF has to do is keep winning the games that are on their schedule, win the conference, and they'll end up being the highest ranked Group of 5 team at the end of the season, which secures them a game against a big team in the New Year's Six Bowl. So that gives them the chance then to prove that they've been getting disrespected all season, and like Ann said, could set them up for a nice run next year.
Next year,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even though our expectations might have been a little high with, you know, the playoff, it's still disrespectful to me that we've been sitting at 18.
It feels a little gross. It feels a little gross, especially after you see Michigan State go on the road and get torn apart by Ohio State.
Plus, how many teams have 2 losses that are still ahead of us? I mean, you mentioned a couple of them already.
And it's sad because as much as it pains me to say it, you might see a 3-loss team ahead of us this week.
Yeah, that's sad.
Which...
Absolute blasphemous.
Yeah,
all right.
Blasphemy.
We have another unbeaten team on campus, albeit the record of 1-0. The UCF men's basketball team tipped off their season last week against Mercer and came out on top 88-79, despite star center Taco Fall not playing. Coach Dawkins' team has been building up the hype since the loss last season in the NIT semifinal in New York. What did you guys see from the team in that first game that has you optimistic for the rest of their season? Dimitri, we'll start with you.
One word is depth. They had 9 guys in the game play over 12 minutes. Last year, towards the stretch run, they were only playing like 7 guys in the NIT.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. They played great defense even without Taco Fall in, and that's going to be the calling card of the team. So.
Depth. Anthony.
Obviously, the depth, but faster pace on the offense, more aggressive. 88 points in the first game. They averaged 66.93 last year after doing all the math. Last year, the highest game total was 86. So, I mean, you could see the aggressiveness. Defense is more aggressive as well, guarding 94 feet.
Absolutely.
And also Miles Douglas, young freshman, very good young defender. I liked how he took a little bit of leadership in that game.
It's exciting. It's certainly a great time to be a UCF night with all the exciting sports teams on campus. But heading into the break, we'll be talking a little college football madness once you return. So if you're watching, stay with us.
Do you like sports? Do you like reading about sports? Then we got a sports blog just for you. Stay on my peripherals. That's not fun. Hitting the field.
The first student-run sports blog.
For sports fans.
By sports fans.
See, it's all about the product shot.
Where do you want me to stand?
Don't talk though. I want them to see the whole.
Hitting the field.
We cover football.
We cover basketball. And so much more.
He's out. By sports reporters. And Meech.
What up? Watch the show and read the sports blog. Hitting
Field.
Hitting the Field is back after that short commercial break, and still with me on set is Anthony Abruzzo and Dimitri Zamaris, ready to go head-to-head on a little college football debate. What up? All right, guys, there was 2 major blowouts in the top 4 last week, and not in the manner you would normally see. The number 1 ranked Georgia traveled to Auburn this weekend for the Deep South's oldest rivalry and were exposed on both sides of the ball, falling to the number 10 ranked Tigers 40-17. Meanwhile, in Miami, the number 3 ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish were beat down by the undefeated Hurricanes 41-8. Which one of these results do you think has a bigger effect on the playoff picture? Anthony, we'll start with you.
It's definitely Miami. They're going to leapfrog in the standings. It's due to that dominating win over Notre Dame. It's going to create chaos in the for the committee, who's, let's be honest, they don't know what they're doing anyway half the time. So if it goes down the way I think it is, there's the potential of having maybe even a 2-loss team when it's all said and done in the college national playoff for the first time ever.
Is it Miami?
No, I actually have the Auburn win against Georgia. Like Ant said, that could set up for a 2-loss team in the playoff.
Exactly.
You look at it, Auburn has a chance now after beating Georgia, who's ranked number 1. They play Alabama in 2 weeks. Alabama will likely still be the number 1 team in the country, so they can go on a span of beating the number 1 team in the country twice in 3 weeks.
Yep.
They're already sitting at number 10, looking on the outside looking in. They'll probably creep a little closer to 6 or 7 tomorrow night when the rankings come out. And then they'll have the possibility of playing Georgia a second time in the SEC championship game. You'd have to figure Georgia's a top 5 to 6 team also at that point. So Auburn could have 3 top 5 wins going in, with one of their losses being to LSU, which doesn't look good, but the other loss being to Clemson, who could also find themselves in the playoff. So I think definitely we could see it lessens the possibility of seeing 2 SEC teams in the playoff, like we said, but it definitely sets the table nicely for Auburn to control their own destiny, which is something that you want to be able to say this late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, if they can keep winning, top 5 wins in
Plus,
3 weeks
Georgia's going to control their own destiny anyway. All they got to do is win out, and they'll be back at number 1. So
that's
we'll
the biggest thing. Every team that controls it, just beat the teams in front of you.
Yep,
that's all you can do.
Easier said than done when those teams are Alabama.
Now, 2 teams with a legitimate claim as the best team in the country, Alabama and Oklahoma, both put together impressive wins this weekend. Alabama has proved they can win in blowouts, but the game against Mississippi State on the road, they showed they can win nail-biters as well, coming out with a 1-touchdown victory in Starkville. Oklahoma was at home playing host to fellow Big 12 top dog TCU. The Sooners' defense stepped up after getting absolutely torched last week, and the Sooners prevailed 38-20 over a top 10 opponent. So, which of these results was more impressive to you? Meech, we'll start with you.
I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma, and not to take anything away from Bama, Jalen Hurts continues to show that in the clutch he's one of the coolest customers in college football, especially after last year against Clemson. We already knew that. We know that if Deshaun Watson wasn't the other quarterback in that game last year, Alabama would have won the national title because of Jalen Hurts. But I'm not taking anything away from him, but what Oklahoma did, TCU's the number 3 defense ranking-wise in S&P Plus, which is the best college football defensive metric they have. Oklahoma put 533 yards of total offense on them.
That's a big number.
That's a lot.
They took the number 6 team in the country, TCU, who everyone agrees is one of the better teams, and it never felt like TCU had a chance in that game. Not only that, they're easily the best offense in the country, Oklahoma. They're efficient. Baker Mayfield's playing at a Heisman Trophy level. They're 3 points above the next closest offense as far as S&P rankings go, and it's UCF. So, wow. And the defense is finally, they had a young secondary at the end of the year. They're finally taking form a little bit. As long as they can hold up against the run, which they're going to have to do in the playoff, you can't tell me there's a hotter team in college football than Oklahoma.
I can't disagree with that. Ant,
look, I agree with what everything Meech said, but I'm going to say it's the Alabama win that proved a little more. Look, they walked into a hostile environment. The players were on a roll. I mean, they brung out a chain before the game started against the Alabama players. You knew they were hyped. The fans were hyped. Everybody was hyped. Bama was down 24-7. They haven't really been in those types of games this year where they could come back and win. They had 4 of their defensive linemen that got hurt. And also Jalen Hurts, like you mentioned, he stood up. He put the team literally on his back and brought them back to victory. And even Nick Saban said after the game he was very impressed with that win. And usually you don't hear that from a guy like Nick Saban. You usually think, well, we have this to work on, this, that, work on. So I think Alabama's win was more impressive.
I think we expect more out of Alabama, so I think the more impressive win may have been Oklahoma to me. But,
right.
You know, an undefeated team that's not getting any respect in the polls is Wisconsin. Now, at 10-0 on the season, the Badgers will likely still be on the outside looking in to the top 4 when tomorrow's rankings come out. Wisconsin unquestionably has a great defense and one of the most dominant running games in the country, but don't really possess any big-time wins. In fact, they are ranked outside of the top 4 tomorrow night. Do you think the Badgers have a legitimate gripe with the committee? Anthony, we'll start with you.
Child, please. Heck no. Okay, look, they have a schedule of like a chocolate chip cupcake, if those types of cupcakes even exist.
They don't.
They don't. I had to put that in there. Only 3 wins against winning teams. Iowa just past week at Northwestern, FAU, and who really cares about FAU? I mean, I can't even believe.
It's all about the FAU.
I mean, I can't even believe I even considered going to that school. It gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. But they deserve to be where they are right now. They might get to the 6th spot based on what happened this week, but the only chance that maybe they're going to get into the top 4 is if they win the Big Ten title against Ohio State. That's the only way.
No, I mean, definitely what Ant said is true. Wisconsin just has to beat who's in front of them. They haven't been able to beat Ohio State in recent years in the Big Ten championship. Beat Ohio State, Wisconsin. You're 3rd in S&P. That means you're playing efficiently on both sides of the ball. But you just have to beat the big boys on your schedule, what they've never been able to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Wisconsin's going to be on the outside looking in. All right, guys, the committee comes out with their 3rd top 4 of the season, as we said, coming out tomorrow night. Who do you think they'll have in the top 4? And then who do you think should be in the top 4? Meech, we'll start with
real
you.
quick, I got Bama, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Miami.
Okay.
Bama, Oklahoma, Miami, Clemson. Only difference is I think because Miami's undefeated and they beat Notre Dame this past weekend.
Fair enough. Well, with that said, the end of the college football segment has arrived, and I have to give the win today to Dimitri Zamaris, those Oklahoma facts you were spitting. Stay tuned. Nick and Tatiyana will be on the next segment to talk about some NFL. Don't go anywhere.
I'll be back.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Do you like sports? Do you like reading about sports? Then we got a sports blog just for you. Stay on my peripherals. That's not far. Hitting the field.
The first student-run sports blog.
For sports fans.
By sports fans.
See, it's all about the product shot.
Where do you want me to stand?
Don't talk though. I want them to see the hole.
Hitting the field. We cover football. We cover basketball. And so much more.
He's out. By sports reporters and Meech.
What up? Watch the show and read the sports blog. Hitting
the field.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Hello and welcome back to Hitting the Field. I am now joined by Tatiyana Smallwood, who is making her HTF debut, and you all know him and love him, Nick Santiago. We're about to break down some of this past weekend's NFL action. Let's start off with the Dallas Cowboys, who yesterday dropped a key game against the Falcons team that has been trending downwards over the last couple of weeks. But the offense just couldn't get it going, totaling a meager 233 yards of total offense. Ezekiel Elliott's absence was noticeable for a team that struggled to establish its usual smash mouth identity. After what we saw yesterday, do you guys think the Cowboys can still make a playoff push without Zeke? Nick, we'll start with you.
Plain and simple, no.
Fair enough.
They'll have no power run without Zeke, but it's not just that they're missing Zeke. It's that they were missing their left tackle Tyron Smith yesterday. And without him, the two backups, Chaz Green, Byron Bell, gave up 6 sacks to Claiborne, and I think they gave up 8 sacks altogether. I mean, they made the Cowboys look like trash. I mean, the defense also, without Sean Lee getting injured in the middle of the game, they also gave up 38 points. So I don't think they're going to make a playoff push.
Claiborne set a franchise record with 6 sacks yesterday. That man was on fire. Tatiyana.
Yes, he was. I actually have to agree with Nick as well. The Cowboys really don't have a chance when it comes to the playoff push. They also play the Eagles and they play the Seahawks, which are also another playoff contender. They're second in the league with rushing yards, and without Ezekiel Elliott, they're really slacking in that portion. They have Alfred Morris and Dak Prescott. Combined with their rushing yards, they're probably about half of Zeke's total rushing yards of 783, which that makes him third in the league. Other than that, I would say that they have to rely on their passing game because the O-line is starting to struggle without Tyron Smith, as Nick mentioned. And with that, Des Bryant is really struggling. He only had 4 TDs. He only has 4 TDs in the total season, and against the Falcons, 39
Dak
yards.
couldn't get him the ball yesterday. He didn't have any time back there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely going to have to make some changes. Yesterday, one of the remaining winless teams, the San Francisco 49ers, captured their first victory of the season. They beat Nick's Giants. Make of it what you will, but it's a win nonetheless. This leaves Cleveland as the only remaining winless team in the NFL. So I ask you, will the poor Browns ever get a win this season? Tatiyana.
Well, first, I'd like to say RIP to my Giants. That's why I'm wearing all black today. So we have that in common, Nick. But yes, I think the Browns actually will win a game. The 4 out of the 7 teams that they play are under 500, one of them being the Bengals. And although the Bengals did dominate against them defensively the last game that they played in Week 4, I will say that I think the Browns have a better overall offense. Kaiser rushed for over 200 yards yesterday, and that was against the Lions, which are also a really good defensive team. So with 107 yards rushing per game, that makes him 17th in the league compared to the Bengals, which are dead last. And that's only 70 yards per game. So also with the Bengals struggling, I will say that teams rushing against them are also excelling as well. It makes them 27th in the league with how poorly they're doing against rushing teams.
Absolutely, Nick.
No. No way. They're the Cleveland Browns, for God's sakes. No way they're going to win a game. They play the Bengals, which is a division game, and no matter how bad the Bengals are, I think division games are just always tougher no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
They still play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Have you seen them lately? Yeah, exactly. They've given up, in the 5 out of the 9 games, they've given up over 30 points. No, and Kaiser's only has, 4 touchdowns on the season? No.
It's not enough.
No,
but I'll tell you right now, my hot take, the Browns upset the Jags next week. It's going to be very unpopular in the studio right now, but that's my hot take.
Okay.
One team flying under the radar in the NFC added another win yesterday, bringing their season record to 7-2. The Minnesota Vikings held off the Washington Redskins and got a virtuoso performance from the third-string quarterback Case Keenum, who has been playing well above expectations since taking over for the injured Sam Bradford. Their defense is one of the best in the league, and the offense is somehow still humming along despite the injuries to their signal callers. So I ask this, Nick. Are the Vikings a serious threat to the Eagles in the NFC?
Again, no way. Their quarterback is Case Keenum. Remember when Ryan Fitzpatrick was trying to go on that run with the Jets? And everyone was like, oh, man, they're such a good team. What happened at the end? What do you feel like?
It was
4
classic
picks?
Jets.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The Jets were being
I
the
mean,
Jets.
if in this league, if you don't have a solid foundation on quarterback, there's no way. And with the Eagles, they're just offense, special teams, defense. They're just way too good.
Tati.
I would have to agree. The Eagles are balling right now. When it comes to their total points, rushing yards per game, they are in the top 5.
So are the Vikings? Are they contending? Could they beat the Eagles?
Against the Eagles, no,
All right,
definitely
short
not.
and sweet. Now on to the AFC. The race for the second AFC wildcard spot has been uninspiring and murky all season. With the first spot likely going to the Titans or Jaguars, depending on who wins the AFC South. The Bills got absolutely drubbed yesterday, and the Raiders can't get any consistency established on either side of the ball. And outside of that, there's, well, Ravens, Dolphins, and Jets. So who do you believe will capture that last AFC playoff spot? Tatiyana.
Well, I think it's definitely between the Jags and the Titans. Whoever wins that division is going to be probably the most likely to. The next team is going to be the wild card leader.
Yeah.
So I will say that key game the last week of the season with the Jags and the Titans are probably going to be the determining factor. They're both 6-3. They're really good contenders. So it's going to be a matchup between Bortles and Mariota.
Classic rivalry.
Yeah, and then rushing as well is going to be a big sign against. We'll see what Leonard Fournette can do.
That's going to be fun, Nick.
I have the Jags in my playoffs, but for that last spot, I'm going to give it to the Buffalo Bills. I got them going 4-3 in their next 7 games. They still have to play the Chargers and the Colts. They play the Pats twice and the Finns twice, and I think they get 1 game out of both of those teams. I think they win both of those.
Split them,
yeah.
No, I could see that happening. Like I said, I think the Browns, I'd like to take that hot take for next week, but I do think the Jags are going to make the playoffs. But I'd love for my Dolphins to slide right into that that last playoff wild card. All right, that was some great debate from both of you guys, but I have to give the win today to Nick. Don't let that deter you from coming back because you did a great job.
Thank you very much.
Don't turn that dial because after the last commercial break, we will have Dimitri Zamaris and Nick Santiago squaring off in the joust. Guys, that was good.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Do you like sports? Do you like reading about sports? Then we got a sports blog just for you. Stay on my peripherals. That's not fun. Hitting the field.
The first student-run sports blog.
For sports fans.
By sports fans.
See, it's all about the product shot.
Where do you want me to stand?
Don't talk though. I want them to see the whole.
Hitting the field. We cover football. We cover basketball. And so much more.
He's out. By sports reporters and Meech.
What up? Watch the show and read the sports blog. Hitting
the field.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Thanks for sticking with us through the first 3 segments of the show. And we welcome you now to the joust between Nick Santiago and Dimitri Zamaris. We talked college football already, but there's multiple top 10 matchups occurring tomorrow night in college basketball. The 2017 State Farm Championship Classic pits Duke against Michigan State and Kansas versus Kentucky. Which of these 2 matchups are you most excited to see and why? Nick, we'll get it rolling with you.
I'm going to go with the Duke versus Michigan State. Number 1 versus number 2. Beginning of the season, that's great. I'm excited to see Coach K versus Coach Izzo. It's going to be some great coaching out there. And I'm excited for the Jaren Jackson Marvin Bagley matchup.
Oh yeah.
2 nice forwards coming in. I think it's going to be a big game for both of them.
Marvin Bagley's already out here shooting.
Can't forget to throw
Miles Bridges.
Miles Bridges into that. Yeah, for sure. I'm also interested to see that game because it's kind of a contrast of 2 different styles. Michigan State has a lot of returning players, which we don't really see often in college basketball, especially with guys like Miles Bridges, who could have been a lottery pick last year. Interesting to see how he would have developed his game in the offseason. Marvin Bagley, though, I mean, I'm just so excited to see what he can do. Plus, if Duke loses, it's always great to see Duke lose. So
yeah. All right. Well, sticking with college hoops, the brother of NBA rookie Lonzo Ball and shooting guard for the UCLA Bruins, LiAngelo Ball, were arrested in China last week with 2 of his teammates for shoplifting at a Louis Vuitton store.
As you do.
What's your reaction to this incident, Meech?
Well, I just received word in between segments that Donald Trump actually kind of got involved, made a plea to the Chinese president, I guess, to free LiAngelo. So you can keep LiAngelo in prison for as long as you want, because if Trump's as good at getting LiAngelo out of prison as he is at governing the country, LiAngelo, I'm sorry, man, you're gonna be in Chinese prison for a very long time.
We'll leave him there.
It's a real hit to the big baller brand, but I think LeVar can handle it.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Nick.
You know what? I'm with Meech on this one. I mean, just leave him there. I mean, you're from Chino Hills once, so what are you doing stealing from a Louis Vuitton store? Didn't your dad just buy you a Lambo? But anyways, yeah, I got to go with Meech.
But let's not speak on that.
All right. All right, guys. Now we're going to transition into the NBA. Eric Bledsoe was traded from Phoenix to Milwaukee for Greg Monroe and a projected first-round pick. What do you think Bledsoe can do for the Bucks? Nick?
I think he's going to be a big factor in them at least getting into the top 4 of the East in the playoffs. I mean, he's an athletic guard, so he can take people off the dribble. It's going to be easy for him to get his points when you have Giannis and hopefully when you have Jabari Parker back. So I think, and he can assist too. He's not just a shooter out there. So I think he's going to be really big for the Bucks.
Yeah, he's already looking like a good move.
No, he's definitely, I mean, anytime you add a top 12 point guard onto your team, on a team that's been kind of devoid of starting point guard play, it's good. I don't like the fact that it might take the ball out of Giannis's hands a little bit, because I feel like that's how he's starting to grow more as a player. Other than that, I mean, he's a slasher. He can kind of shoot, which will help their spacing a little bit. I wonder if the loss of Greg Monroe, though, will affect their rebounding. Thon Maker and John Henson aren't traditionally like big bruising rebounders.
They're going to have to step up and show that they can be.
Yeah.
They're going to have to eat.
Because Greg Monroe, I saw a stat, he's got more 25 rebound games than Shaq did in his career already.
Wow. I did not even know that.
Yeah, insane.
Is Greg Monroe the next Shaq? Stay tuned.
Highly doubt that one. Finally, guys, the Celtics have come home, and they've come alive after seeing Gordon Hayward's leg explode in front of them, emerging with the best record in the Eastern Conference. Are they a legitimate threat to end LeBron James' reign as the Eastern Conference representatives in the finals? Meech.
Of course not. They got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are going to have to guard LeBron in the playoffs. And when he does get past those 2 guys defending him on the perimeter, is Aaron Baines or Al Horford, who he's always stuffed through the rim, going to stop him? I mean, we've seen LeBron when he wants to win the game.
It's going to be the Cavs. It's got to be, right? Nick, how do you feel?
I'm with Meech. It's going to be the Cavs. I mean, I think the Celtics can make this a really good series, like a 7-game series, only because the Cavs have like the oldest team in the NBA.
I sure hope so.
But I think it's going to be a good series.
I mean, I'd like to see the Bucks develop, but I got to give it to the Cavs. All right, guys, great show today. I loved our joust segment. I got to give the win to Dimitri, because Donald Trump is just the worst. So thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next week. Nothing.
I mean, honestly, like, he deserves